When Squid Game dropped on Netflix back in 2021, it became an unexpected sensation the world over. For many, it was the first taste of Korean entertainment, and that blend of international acclaim, dystopian sci-fi, and a larger theme around capitalism and greed made it a heady cocktail of intrigue that many couldn't help but indulge. This was helped along by the surreal mix of games, each more deadly and horrific than the last, along with a gripping mystery, enticing viewers to carry on watching until the deadly end. Along the way, Squid Game introduced tiny slivers of world building, coming in the form of the VIPs, those working against the game behind the scenes, and of course the undercover detective story too. All of this was woven seamlessly into the overarching story, allowing for a more rounded view of the games, all whilst upping the stakes as characters we grew to love turned out to be planted moles, or, as the heartbreaking Marble game showed, forced to betray their friends to the death. All of this worked on a visceral, frightening level, and it captured the hearts and minds of many. Nobody expected it to be such a huge hit, especially the writer himself, and I'm guessing neither did Netflix either. Of course, the streamers were not about to let this become a one-season wonder, and thus 2 sequels were hastily greenlit. The thing is, Squid Game wasn't even the best Korean drama released that year. But alas, let's not tarnish the reputation of this one just yet, given what a great job the first season actually did. With news of the renewal, many fans were curious and weary over exactly how this one might go. After all, we've seen franchises like Money Heist turn from cultural hits into forgettable money grabs, as Netflix cycle through numerous seasons, each decreasing steadily in quality along the way. Enough beating around the bush here, because unfortunately season 2 of Squid Game does go in the same direction as Money Heist. It's not outright awful, but it's not a particularly good season of TV either. In fact, there are parts of this that are just outright copy and paste portions of season 1, right down to character archetypes and the structure of the episodes themselves. In fact, the only original content, which happens in the first few episodes and accompanied by bite-sized snippets sprinkled through the show, don't do anywhere near enough to expand the world in a way that makes you understand more about what's happening, or come any closer to toppling the hierarchy at the top. The story of season 2 wastes no time in picking up where we left off. Gi-hun leaves the airport and intends to find the creators of the game, dead set on shutting it down before another round of Squid Game starts up. To do so, he needs to find the recruiter and then have him bring Gi-hun to the frontman and everybody else involved in the game, disguised in the form of a message he wants to send. Fast forward 2 years and Gi-hun is a man possessed. The recruiter has fallen off the grid, but when he gets a lucky break, and the recruiter does show up, Gi-hun eventually finds himself thrown back into the games again. When he does, he comes equipped with newfound knowledge and plans for surviving. However, there are more horrors and secrets lurking around the corner. Interwoven around this story is the ongoing saga surrounding our detective Jun-ho. After finding out that his brother is actually the infamous frontman, In-ho, Jun-ho recovers and sets out to try and find the island Squid Game is located on. After befriending a captain, he's down on his luck until he crosses paths with Gi-hun. Alas, the rest of the season then sees Jun-ho trying to find Gi-hun, while our titular character attempts to survive the games, leading to a dramatic and action-packed finale that leaves everything on a big cliffhanger. In terms of content, there are some nice ideas here, but the first season really excelled with its deep characterization and examination of different players. We very much got the contrasting messages of don't judge a book by its cover interwoven around a don't trust anyone motif, causing a fascinating contradiction of ideas that made for a very tense and uneasy watch. We had no idea who was going to die next, who might betray whom, and moments like the Blackout Massacres or the Marble game catching us off guard simply because we had no idea these were coming next. Returning to Squid Game this time, we already know some of the games, which do make a return, while a few new games are thrown in but aren't anywhere near as effective as the first round. The biggest problem here comes from the inconsistent writing around different players. Mostly, this season plays out with factions inside the games, caught between the X's, those who want to go home and stop the games, and the O's, those who want to keep playing and make more money. While this in itself is fine, one of the games has everyone playing cheerleader as different players team up and try to make it out of their respective games in one piece. In fact, at one point a team are surrounded by players who cheer and egg them on, including some of the O's. Now, call me cynical, but if you want to make more money in this game, wouldn't it make more sense to sabotage or boo those who make it? Meanwhile, the characters this time include a diverse group of individuals, but they all fall into similar archetypes as what we saw the first time around, so their impact here is nowhere near as effective. We have an old woman who's sweet and has her respect to those around her. We have the oddball school rejects, the geeks, thugs, and the bullies. Everything here feels like the first set of characters reworked, and while their backstories are obviously different, the only real standouts include Gi-hun, a transgender, and No-yul, a woman who has fled North Korea. I think some of the issues here with the characters stem from Gi-hun and how he's been written here. For a guy that starts with an incredibly low tolerance for these games and is desperate for revenge, he sure makes some pretty questionable decisions throughout the series, including trusting way too many people right off the bat. A big part of Gi-hun's character journey at the end of season 1, which spurred on his ensuing revenge plan, came from finding out Il-nam was actually the one who created and hosted Squid Game because he was bored. This time he trusts everyone without even questioning their motives, including a new bestie that rocks up and happens to be inside the games, sticking closely to Gi-hun throughout. It's such a shame because during the first game you have a feeling the story is going to go in one direction, but it soon slips back and devolves into its old ways. The irony here is that season 2 is actually at its strongest outside the games. We already know how the games work, so the idea of going after the VIPs or trying to stop the games while another group of players are trapped inside could have set up a ticking clock thriller and more of an action-packed romp. In this alternate version of season 2, we could have been introduced to new players desperate for money whom we want to win the games but are unsure if they'll make it, while Gi-hun and Jun-ho team up and go after the VIPs and those in charge of the games outside, attempting to sabotage the whole thing as a new set of games begin. This could have added a completely different dynamic to the season and allowed us to see more of the games without knowing our main character, who obviously has insane plot armor. While there is action here, the show never quite knows what it wants to do with those outside the games, and as a result, everything just feels like a poor man's copy and paste job from what we've seen already. None of this is helped of course by the crippling hype that gripped season 1, and the unenviable task of trying to appease many people expecting a crazy set of games to mirror what we got 3 years ago. The world is a very different place now, and after being graced with additional shows like Alice in Borderland, Squid Game just crumbles under the weight of expectation. Visually, the games still look great, and the familiar musical score, with its haunting orchestral voices and spooky minimalist chords, definitely helps craft an atmosphere that's similar to season 1 for this. The bright colours are all back, and a particular incident in the hallways late on makes for a very discordant and beautiful contrast, given the high stakes at work. But unfortunately, all of this is just a moot point in what's otherwise a very mediocre and forgettable season. It pains me to say it, to be honest, because Korean entertainment is miles ahead of what's produced regularly in the West, but Squid Game season 2 is a massive step down. Whether season 3 can pick up the slack and make a comeback like Stranger Things did is anyone's guess, but if it does, we'll have to wait until 2025 to find out. Whether players will hit the X and tap out of this game before then is anyone's guess, but for those who choose to stay, let's hope there's an enticing prize at the end, because right now it doesn't look too promising. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.